So in my last video, I did a deep dive into the current legal situation involving Eugenia Cooney, where we explored everything to do with this lawsuit which indirectly involves Eugenia and what was going on in pretty much every single detail. And the crux of this lawsuit is basically a massive team of lawyers are arguing that the application TikTok are responsible for putting children in danger on their app by allowing Eugenia Cooney and other content creators like her to thrive on their platform, whilst also maintaining allegedly a close personal relationship with Eugenia herself, despite many controversial situations and incidents involving Eugenia. And yeah, it was a very complicated case, and I would recommend going to watch this video after this one. Because yeah, this video is pretty much the part 2 to that situation, not involving the lawsuit, but actually involving a conversation that erupted after this lawsuit started to go viral. Because recently, a content creator named Vangelina Skov uploaded a video titled, "The Eugenia Cooney allegations are shocking." And basically, this video goes into a situation of allegations that have absolutely blown up on TikTok recently, but also blew up back in 2020. The allegations that were being covered here are not new, but a large amount of new information has come out to do with Eugenia and what took place on her Discord server between the years of 2018 and 2020. But yeah, like I just said, this technically is not a new situation. Because in 2020, I actually released a series of videos titled Eugenia Cooney's Discord isn't safe, Eugenia Cooney's Discord situation just got worse, and another one called Eugenia Cooney's Discord situation is getting worse. Basically, what I want to do in this video is retread the ground that we went through in 2020, but mainly go through this story in the eyes of 2025. Because yes, there now is a lawsuit indirectly involving Eugenia Cooney, all to do with child safety, and now a very delicate situation has re-popped up after so much new information has come up via TikToks that has got a lot of people out there talking about the responsibility that Eugenia has in this situation, and it definitely does go down some extremely dark territories. So basically, we're going to go through that, and we're going to be bouncing between 2025, 2018, and 2020. There is a lot of information that we're going to be going through today, and I pretty much just want to work out what actually happened in this Discord situation. Why is this re-erupting, and who is directly responsible for what took place? Because yeah, right now, things are heating up more than ever for Eugenia Cooney, and honestly, things aren't looking good as more and more information starts to come out about her and this dreaded Discord. And interestingly enough, right now on social media, Eugenia is pretty much absolutely silent. She's not streaming, she's not posting, and I think at the time of when all of this is coming out, obviously, it's not looking good. But I do want to be fair in this video, I do want to be nuanced in this video, and I really want to work out with all of this new information coming out, what is real and what isn't real. And with that, let's get into where this story originally re-erupted from. And that all comes from this TikTok creator here called WTF Is This Timeline, as recently this content creator posted multiple TikToks going through their personal experiences with Eugenia Cooney, her Discord, the people in the Discord, and the people that managed it. Basically, she alleges some of the worst possible things you could probably imagine. But for context, some people may actually not understand or know what Discord is, and honestly, I'm incredibly envious of you because Discord is probably the worst application that's ever been invented. But yes, Discord is pretty much another form of social media. It's an app that allows you to directly communicate with your friends, but it also has this function of where you can have group servers together, where pretty much you send out an invite and anyone you want can join these servers, and these are predominantly used by communities on the internet of people that are in fandoms. A content creator can have their own server where they can get all their fans together, and yeah, it does sound like a really good thing. It's a really nice idea, it really is, to have a place where everyone can come together, discuss their favorite content creators, TV shows, just any form of media. But unfortunately, as a lot of you know, Discord is pretty much a cesspool. There are complete genres of videos dedicated to exposing Discord creeps. It pretty much is arguably one of the worst apps out there when it comes to people being put in danger because of the users that use that app. And at one point of time, it did really feel that most content creators did actually have a Discord server for their fans, but nowadays it's just deemed too stressful of an operation. Because yes, you would have moderators managing everything going on, but it really wouldn't mean that there would be no stress. There'd be arguments in a Discord, there'd be people being rude, bullying, mean, and there would be other issues out there quite like what's going on in this Eugenia situation, which in some cases it was just impossible to avoid because, well, Discord is a cesspool, and that is why I would be willing to be charitable to Eugenia in this situation, because it's a very common thing for Discords to turn into cesspools. But no, with what we're going to get into, it very much seems that a lot of the stuff that we're about to explore is very much a continuous pattern of so much terrible behavior being ignored despite people directly going to Eugenia about it. And now, I do just want to put a warning and say there are going to be a lot of sensitive words and phrases that I'm going to try and get around in this video, mainly due to the fact that, well, YouTube are very sensitive when it comes to the topic of Eugenia Cooney, so I want to be as safe as possible, and I want to be able to deliver the story to you all without having this video age restricted. Now, this story did originally blow up in 2020, like I mentioned before, after multiple people from Eugenia's community came out on her Reddit with multiple detailed stories about what was going on in the server, such as things of moderators being exposed for having predatory criminal records after documents were exposed to show that yes, a mod had committed very, very serious crimes, and the situation really only got worse after that, after Eugenia made direct responses to everything, and those responses were just absolutely awful. Deflections, calling people mean, saying that she's pretty much not going to get involved in a lot of cases, and in general, she pretty much never helped herself in every single time that something came up, and we will be getting into that in this video. And it's interesting because this TikToker is now coming out with their story about everything, but as you're going to discover, this TikToker has a long history with Eugenia. They haven't been silent for years, but they have been trying to get their story out for years. So yeah, let's finally get into all of this and uncover what is going on here.
So first of all, I'd like to say I might be doing some censoring here. I'm trying my best because every time I talk about her, a lot of her fans try to mass flag me and get my stuff taken down because they don't want the fact that her community and she was willingly getting herself involved in this. They like it to be shut down as much as possible, so we'll put that out there. And when I say this is an issue, I don't just mean one or two bad men or bad people in her previous Discord or Twitch or YouNow communities. I mean pretty much every guy and even some women in this space were doing this to vulnerable young adults. When you ask Eugenia Cooney about this situation now, she often pretends like it was just one person and conflates all these stories with just being about one guy, because she knows she can get away with that with the amount of confusion with how many different names are involved, like usernames, screen names, things like that. But it's actually multiple people, and there's multiple levels to it too. Like, not everyone was a full-blown of children. There was levels here. There was levels of stalking, levels of boundary crossing, things like that. Things where things didn't go as far as they could have because there was some intervention to protect the person involved. In other instances where it did go really far, it kind of varies. And there's some situations I don't know about because I'm not the only minor teenager that went through her community at the time. There could be thousands of stories I don't know about.
Now yeah, this is something I've heard a lot about Eugenia's server and also seen a lot of evidence to back the claims here. In 2020, there were a lot of dark stories going around about this server. Yes, there was an evidence for every single story, but it started to be a case of there is no smoke without fire, and in this case, it was a blazing inferno. And unfortunately, I was never really surprised about any of this, and I don't know if this is a bit rude to say, but I think it does come down to the fact that Eugenia's audience are people that seemingly are very shouted. There are people that have a lot of issues. From what I've seen, it seems there are people in that community that don't exactly go outside much, and they have a lot of issues going on close at home. And it really doesn't surprise me that when you get all of these people together, it leads to a lot of exploitation and terrible things happening. And this did actually catch the attention of the mainstream media in 2020. As you can see, this is a Business Insider article that states another former fan of Eugenia Cooney's, who wanted to remain anonymous but who Insider has spoken to and identified, said that she was harassed by people in Cooney's server. She sent Insider screenshots of conversations from older men, as well as one from April in which a Discord moderator told a young person to message him if she wanted to lose. Everyone can get a thigh gap, he wrote. And this is what I mean about this server. There were a lot of clearly mentally ill people in there who were dealing with a lot of certain health-related issues, and these people, a lot of them, were very, very young in a Discord surrounded by people who were grown adults, some in their 30s and 40s and allegedly even 50s, and obviously that's not a good mix. It will lead to exploitation, and it will lead to very unfortunate situations like you're going to hear in this video. And because of the sheer nature of the amount of allegations that were coming out about this story in 2020 and even now in 2025, a lot of people have started to speculate that, well, was this all an inside job by the moderators? A lot of people are pinning the blame on Eugenia herself. And now I am going to play devil's advocate and say content creators are very busy people, and I know that content creators that run Discords are not always going to have their eyes on their Discord server and are hopefully going to be thinking that, well, the moderators that they put in charge will deal with everything that could be a problem. But as you're going to find out, this wasn't just a 1 or 2 or 3 time issue. This is a story where multiple people went to Eugenia multiple times about so many bad things, and based on what I've seen and what I'm going to show you and what you're going to see from this content creator right now speaking about it, it very much does just seem that Eugenia ignored so much, and that led to direct harm to people in her server.
But it is definitely important to know the basic facts. There's a lot of basic facts now, is that one, a lot of her former moderators have full on said that they were not allowed to ban certain people. Usually they were not allowed to ban certain people if they gave her enough money. If they were nice enough to her and enabled her issue enough, you know what issue I'm talking about, she would be very against getting these people banned. Even when they had a history of people coming to them and saying, hey, this person was creepy to me, this person was talking about their private to me, or this person's stalking and attacking me, can you please get rid of this person? Or maybe they have some other issue, like they're threatening people in chat and things like that. No. She was always very insistent on, don't ban these people because they're nice to me, so they must be a good person. That is the mindset that Eugenia Cooney was in with every single one of these men, unless she had a reason to turn on them, like if they turn on her, or she got too much heat for keeping them around. For example, this is a screenshot I got back in the day of one of her moderators getting really, really mad at somebody for not being able to ban someone that targets women.
Now, we are going to get into the original story of what actually took place in 2020, but based on my own personal opinion, this isn't fact. I believe everything that she is saying in this TikTok. There is so much evidence that I have found to pretty much align with everything that she's saying in this TikTok that I really just cannot disagree with her on pretty much most of the things she says and claims in these 2 TikToks. And like I said before, I get that content creators are very busy people and they can't be managing their Discord 24/7, and I also put the acknowledgement that Discord is pretty much a cesspool, and from what I've seen, a majority of content creators have had to deal with unfortunate situations where bad people have come into their servers and they've had to manage that situation. That's something that can obviously happen. But with what this TikToker is saying here, it more seems to be that these terrible people in Eugenia's servers weren't just accidentally allowed to be in there for a short period of time and then were kicked out. It very much does seem to be that Eugenia was deliberately not doing anything about this situation herself because she didn't want to create conflict or upset people, or even in a worse case, upset the people that were donating large amounts of money to her. And this conversation has existed for a very long time now. A lot of people have been debating for years now, was Eugenia at fault in this Discord situation? Because eventually she did actually delete her Discord. I should confirm that when the controversy got hot, she deleted her Discord. And because of this, and because of all the questions about this, I think it's important that we go back to 2020 and look at the facts. And yeah, as I said before, the original story in 2020 blew up because of this Reddit post titled, Eugenia has skeletons of predators in her closet, where some of her former moderators and people in her community got together and made this post where it states, Eugenia and her audience go to great lengths to cover things up and has never apologized for it, that she has never tried to protect the young people in her audience, and that she has actively ignored concerns that her audience is a borderline, well, I can't say this phrase or word, but criminal ring, whilst also then confirming that yes, one of the main predators in Eugenia's server was an ex-moderator who was actually a registered offender in the United States of America. Now at face value, I can understand the argument of, well, she kicked him out of the server, the story should be done there, but based on everything that we're getting into, I can't really take that argument at face value, and it all starts us off with, well, how Eugenia actually responded to this situation originally, and yeah, it wasn't very good.
But now, like there's people online that try to twist things around and bring up things from ever ago. I'm still kind of of my side of that. Everything that is being said in those videos is from over 2 years ago. None of it is from anything that's recent. And yeah, you guys can say there's proof.
Yes, that was her genuine response to people raising concerns about the possibility of there being an extremely dangerous individual in her Discord server. Not a shed of care or responsibility, just, oh, the people talking about it are twisting things. It's not exactly a good look, and based on everything that we're going to continue to get into, this whole way of dealing with these issues of people coming to Eugenia with concerns about people in her community, it very much seems to be a repeated thing of where Eugenia is like, you're twisting things, I don't want to get involved, I don't want to upset people, and even in some cases she directly defends some of the people being accused of very serious things. And it takes us straight back to what that TikToker was saying in 2025. Things do really line up just with when you see Eugenia's response and with what this TikToker was saying, because yeah, it does seem that Eugenia was passing up a lot of responsibility. And I should also say that yes, this is a real screenshot right here showing that this ex-moderator that was in Eugenia's server from I believe 2018 to 2020 was on the register for committing a first-degree crime, which obviously isn't very good when you consider that that was in 2014 and he didn't really shy away from showing his identity. I believe that his face was public, his name was public, his location was public, yet no one somehow knew that this guy was on the register. But it only gets worse when you look into how a fan called Fancakes contacted Eugenia in 2018. And this is actually when I had a moment of realization that everything in this story connects. As we go further in, you're going to discover that every person named in this story is directly connected with each other. Because this DM from Fancakes in 2018 is actually the TikToker that we've been referencing throughout this video so far, as yes, they have Fancakes in their bio on TikTok. It's the same person, which really, in my opinion, only brings more credibility to their name because, well, there are screenshots from them in 2018 pretty much saying everything that Fancakes says in 2025. And yeah, basically in 2018, Fancakes DM'd Eugenia saying, I'm being stalked, Eugenia, and I don't know what to do. If I can watch you under Fancakes anymore, please don't forget me. I don't know what to do. It hurts so much. I love you. I've got to go into hiding. Now, at this point of time, I believe Fancakes was around 14 years old, and pretty much what this is in reference to is one of the very dangerous and creepy adults that were in Eugenia's server. And Eugenia responded to that with, don't worry, I'm so sorry to hear that, and I really hope things get better. don't be afraid to report it to the authorities if things get too serious. You're always so sweet, and I wouldn't want to ever forget you, love you, and hang in there. And yeah, in 2020, when this DM originally got exposed, naturally it did not look very good on Eugenia, because a 14-year-old had told her she was being stalked by someone in her community, and her response was, hey, if this gets, more serious, you should probably contact the authorities. Not just directly, you need to go to the authorities, this is very serious. It almost reads like a message from a friend who really doesn't care, maybe a mutual, and I understand that Eugenia doesn't have, parentage or civil protection over this kid, but at the end of the day, I feel like as a content creator, knowing that this is happening in your community, when someone's coming to you and saying these terrible things, you should at least say, no, you need to go to the police. You need to do that. If she just directly said one sentence, go to the police, I would actually be a lot more comfortable with that. The things then only got worse in 2020 after this DM was exposed, because Eugenia was asked about a lot of this, and she went on to claim that she would never hire someone to work in her community, her server, her Twitch chat, if they were a criminal. And basically what she was saying here is, well, she did not know that there was a convicted criminal working for her, or at least working as a moderator for her.
None of it is from anything that's recent. And yeah, you guys can say there's proof. Listen, a lot of this stuff I was not aware of. I would never make somebody a mod that was like a or anything like that. I think being a is horrible and terrible and awful.
Now, to be honest with you, especially back in 2020 when Discord was more of a new thing, I don't really think anyone was IDing their Discord moderators for the most part. And to be honest with you, I think in 2020, I was a lot harsher when it came to that point involving IDing moderators, But at the same time, I do think with Eugenia, it is a little bit different. This is someone that clearly has a fan base who, again, I know it sounds mean to say, but a lot of them were very shouted individuals who definitely had a lot of problems going on, and there was clearly a vast range of ages in her server. And I think because of that, Eugenia definitely should have had the responsibility to at least find out if someone she's hiring is on a certain register. Especially when the person you're hiring is a fully grown man in their 30s, I just feel that you have a moral responsibility to at least find out if the person you're going to hire is a convicted criminal. I don't believe it's exactly that hard to find out. And I just think when you're somebody on the size that Eugenia was in 2018 to 2020, you at least have a responsibility to find these things out. But to be honest with you, if this was just a one-time thing, I don't necessarily think she needs to lose her career for it. But the problem comes from the fact of what I mentioned earlier, of there seemed to be a consistent pattern of behavior of when someone would come to Eugenia about very serious issues in her server and she would do nothing. Because going back to the TikTok that I showed you earlier, the last clip ended on this screenshot here of a former moderator complaining, stating that Eugenia, I never banned him nor timed him out. Look at the timeout history for clarification. I mean, I've given him already several chances for when I've been reported for him doing inappropriate misconduct. He targets women in your community and brags about the size of his in whispers. I think this only proves how much I let slide from your community and how lenient I am with them. Some people are legit full of And basically, what I'm getting here is this moderator was actually frustrated or angry at Eugenia as they believed Eugenia was not doing enough to police the fact that there were dangerous individuals in her community. Regardless of if it was a moderator or just someone lurking in her Twitch chat, it very much seems based on this DM that Eugenia was questioning why somebody who was being reported for inappropriate misconduct was banned from her Twitch chat. And this comes back to that consistent pattern of behavior that I was mentioning before, of where somebody will come to Eugenia about very serious issues happening in her community, and she will either do nothing or just completely ignore it, and the moderators themselves were getting frustrated by this. And that is why in 2020, this originally led to so much controversy, because people could not believe that Eugenia allegedly let so much slide. it. And yeah, it's erupting again in 2025 because somebody from that era of 2020 and 2018 fancakes is now exposing even more new information.
And this, for example, this was when I was a minor and I was DMing one of her Twitch moderators about someone who was harassing me, and they're saying that Eugenia is too loyal and gives too many chances. Once again, a different moderator having this experience of her being given too many chances. And back when I was a child, I saw this as she's just way too nice sometimes.
So yeah, let's read this. It states, me, Robot Oxen, Nevak, and 120 are all hunting him, and we are starting to convince Eugenia that he is a bad guy and is just using her loyal fans, but you know how Eugenia is. She wants to see the best in everyone and give them so many chances. I love Eugenia to pieces, but damn, she is just too nice and it kind of is hard to get into savage mode. And then Fancakes replies with, I know right, she's way too nice sometimes, which is a good thing, but also kind of bad too. And yeah, this conversation is between a moderator and a fan in the community of Eugenia who are complaining that somebody in Eugenia's community is obviously a terrible person who should not be there, and they're having to convince Eugenia of this because, well, she just sees the best in everyone. And this is going to be an argument you will see come up time and time again with this Discord situation of, well, Eugenia is just too nice and she just wants the best for everyone. But the reality is you can't use that mentality when it comes to predators. You can't, because you are absolutely directly putting people in your community at complete and utter risk. And like we've seen, unfortunately, that has led to a lot of terrible things happening and a lot of victims coming out from the server stating that they have been affected directly by Eugenia's lack of responsibility for what was going on in her community. And people debate, why would she do this? Is it because she just didn't want to have conflict? And some would say, as I mentioned earlier, no, it's definitely because these people were giving her money and she did not want to lose those donations. Now, there is no evidence for either one of those arguments, but I can understand why people jump to those conclusions, because to be honest with you, there are so many examples of Eugenia simply just ignoring terrible behavior, and in some cases, as I mentioned before, defending some of the people being accused of terrible behavior.
A lot of this stuff I was not aware of.
With her stating that she was not aware of a lot of this stuff that was going on, to me is incredibly disingenuous and honestly is just an outright lie, because we have literally seen her own moderators say that they had to convince Eugenia to remove certain people from the community because they were bad people, and Eugenia pretty much wasn't having it because she wants to see the best in everyone. Now, maybe when she says that she didn't know about a lot of the stuff going on, she wasn't referring to this situation here, but to be honest with you, again, I struggle to believe that, and there just seems to be more proof going against her than for her. And things really only go from bad to worse after this, when this TikToker Fancake starts to come out with even more screenshots.
And here, another former moderator came out 2 years ago saying that they couldn't get rid of bad people either, no matter what happened. See, this is a pattern that happened with many mods. Sometimes they would just be mad at her for a moment in the chat, yelling at her for not banning someone, and other times they've come forward several years later addressing the fact that she does not like to ban people that harm people in her community.
So let's read this once again. It says, hi, my name is Ravenkoff, and I used to be a mod on Eugenia's Twitch channel. I think it's time all of you heard my story. I was modded into the channel when her main mods had too much on their plate to handle, and I happily obliged. I was mod for her for over a year, and just up until now, my eyes were really open to the person that she really is. First off, let me start by saying the mods in this community have verified my identity. I am not someone who is chasing for anything, I'm just wanting to let people know the true story. Eugenia is a person that seems kind-hearted and warm at first. After she made the move to TikTok, that's when the truth hit me like a truck. She is only money-driven. She doesn't care about anything else but money and clout. She is now standing by influencers' opinion and saying things that are truly disgusting. On Twitch, she never listened to us mods. She ignored us when we warned her about harmful people and kept reading hateful and negative comments we deleted. This shows that she just seeks attention. That's why on TikTok, she doesn't want any mods or people that can make her see the truth. She doesn't care about anything. She ignored me and other mods when we showed concern and disregarded us when we confronted her. I also want to apologize to all of you for having been so blind. She really is a harmful person in the end. I spent so much money and time and effort on her that I really regret, but what is done, and now I can only help by sharing my side of the story and letting people know how she really works. If any of you are still supporting her, please know that she doesn't care about you or anything else. I hope my little grain of sand can help in some way, and I appreciate the time you all have given to me reading this. Just know I stand by all of you, and I'm sorry I wasn't aware of who she truly was. Now, whilst there is no evidence attached to this, it comes down to the whole phrase that I mentioned earlier of there is no smoke without fire. We have had multiple instances now of people claiming that Eugenia pretty much just turned a blind eye to so much bad stuff going on in her community, and this is a post verified by her moderators. People knew who she was, and it is clear that she was very, very affected by Eugenia's community, even as a moderator. To me, it's very clear that this was a consistent pattern of behavior, and yes, it was in the past, but I think this is just really shocking to see now, because with Fancakes as a TikTok, it has led to more screenshots coming out as we've seen, but also more things are being unearthed, more screenshots and posts, and it really is just insane to see how bad this situation truly was. In 2020, I did think that, yeah, her server probably is a complete cesspool, but honestly, I didn't see all of the evidence. In this video, we are seeing a lot of the evidence, and trust me, it is bad.
We have to look at this a bit like a triangle pyramid. If the bottom tier of the pyramid is corrupt, so will the very top of it, which is Eugenia Cooney. And also what matters is the middle part of her community too, which would be her moderators. She once had a moderator that I interacted with on a daily basis, that I would go to thinking that he would help me with my situations with people that were victimizing me. I went to this moderator of hers that she promoted as a safe person for her community. And guess what he ended up being the whole time? He ended up being a convicted
I mentioned before that in this video we're going through a lot of new information, and in 2020 I didn't know a lot of the facts that we're going through now, and oh my god, this is so unbelievably worse than I possibly thought. But what makes it even more insane is that guy in the original DMs who was complaining about bad people in the server, and he was trying to convince Eugenia to get rid of them, that guy there, he was also the moderator that turned out to be the guy on the register. It's just pure insanity that you've got the guy who has been exposed for literally being convicted of a first-degree crime, one of the worst crimes possible, if not the worst crime possible, and he is complaining about the individuals in her server. Can you imagine how bad that person must have been for him to complain about it, and also for him to try and convince her to do something about it? It's genuinely so wild to see. And I think what makes this even more disturbing to think about is that Fancakes was 14 when she was interacting with these people. It's just absolutely disgusting. And it does really make me think about this whole ongoing lawsuit right now to do with child protection indirectly involving Eugenia Cooney, because I do wonder, are the lawyers going to see the situation now it is re-erupting? Because to be honest with you, I think this is the clearest evidence yet that Eugenia's community at least was at one point incredibly dangerous, and to be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if this type of danger still exists to this day. She did delete her server, but these people are probably still lurking, because as far as I know, arrests weren't made after 2020, and these people were able to get off scot-free.
Him. As you can see here, the photos match the photos that he looks like. He also says he lives in Missouri, and also he's honest about being a felon. And this is interesting because Eugenia likes to claim, I had no idea anything about this. These screenshots were taken directly in her Discord server back when she had one during this time period in like 2017, 2018. He was open about this fact, and if you are a person in charge of a large community of people that are young, especially, even though they're volunteer based, you should at least make sure, Google someone's name, make sure they are not on this registry list, make sure they are not someone that could victimize other people. But she did not. And this is a pattern that kept happening over and over again, where she does not look into people to make sure that they are safe.
And yeah, she isn't wrong. I understand being a content creator and hiring a moderator for your Twitch chat or Discord server, and they end up doing a bad thing, and I can let that fly. That's something that can naturally happen. You can't predict the future, but I think you can predict the future when you look into somebody's criminal record, which is very public, and realize that yes, this person is on a register, and you definitely can protect your people in your community by not hiring them. As I mentioned before, this guy would not hide his face, he wouldn't hide his name, and he wouldn't hide his location, and it probably was very, very easy to find out that this moderator in a high-profile server like Eugenia's was a bad individual. And I actually went back to my video from 2020 when this situation originally erupted, and I found out that there were tweets Eugenia was liking at this time of where people were complaining about people twisting this situation. And it really does just show why so many people have lost faith in Eugenia over the years, as this is a clear indicator why people don't trust her. I think it is pretty valid to be critical of Eugenia in this situation, even if you think that, I don't know, she shouldn't lose her career for this or something on those lines. We're not here to debate that, but even if you are just playing a neutral ground, surely you can understand why people were upset at Eugenia for this situation, and then you can understand why people would be mad at her for liking these types of tweets. Because it states so many people on this platform love to twist things and lie. I always wonder what they get out of spreading false rumors about people that make them feel horrible. Does it make them feel good to cause people pain and stress? Yes, these were the types of tweets she was liking, pretty much in indirect response to people getting mad at her for the situation that was ongoing in her Discord and Twitch community. It's genuinely insane, because what about the consideration for the fact that people are stressed out and in terrible positions because of your actions of not doing anything about the people in your community until the situation blew up publicly and you were forced into deleting your Discord server. And look, I'm glad that she took the right action. I think eventually she did deal with the situation, but it very much, as we're discovering and as you're going to discover, seems to be too little too late in my personal opinion. But also, yeah, I'm glad that she did it. I am. I think she took the right route, but it does just seem a little late. Because just look at these posts from 2020 where people were giving a scathing review of Eugenia's Discord, and it just shows to us how rife this terrible behavior was in her server. From dangerous predators to pro certain condition mods, this Discord should be avoided at all costs. It is very clear as each day goes by, there seems to be something new that rears its ugly face that makes this Discord one of the most problematic. There is a lack of boundaries when it comes to grown adults telling younger people that they love them, and even if it's in a non-romantic way, it's wrong to tell a complete stranger who happens to be much younger than you that you love them. And yeah, I completely agree with what they're saying here. This type of interaction should not be happening in any Discord server, and I think it is weird that it was being allowed to happen without anything really being done. Another issue with this server is that adults have openly discussed what they're into, if you know what I mean, whilst younger people have been present. This has gone on completely ignored. And on top of that, the suggestion to make the server 18 plus has been dismissed. The mods are completely lazy when it comes to dealing with problematic people making threats and wishing harm on others, and at times agreeing with the aggressor. In the end, this server should not exist, and whilst it does, Eugenia's mods continue to drag her reputation through the mud. And honestly, I'm not shocked by this review, and in regards to the thing of where it says moderators sometimes take the side of the aggressor, there is a clip that I'm going to play you. In fact, I'll just play it right now. I'll give full context later on in the video, of where Eugenia is responding to someone who pretty much went to Eugenia and said, hey, this very dangerous person is in your Twitch chat and in your community, please ban them. And this is what Eugenia had to say.
I give you notice, but Zenzo has threatened people W violence new. Also, please seek treatment. You don't seem to be doing well, and I am concerned.
No offense to people in here, and honestly, like, I'm not really gonna give this, like, too much of a reaction or anything. But I just kind of think, like, you know, coming in my stream and just kind of, like, attacking a viewer of mine who I think is a really nice person, I just don't really think that's very nice to do that. And to that person, like, honestly, he's a great person. He's always been, like, very, very sweet on my stream. So I'm not trying to, you know, be mean to anybody here, but I kind of just think coming in just to say that is kind of, like, not very nice. And then also, you know, kind of, like, bringing that on to me and everything, it's like, the stream isn't really, no offense, like, the stream isn't really about me, like, going to treatment or whatever. And like last year, you know, I was in treatment for a while and I've been doing like good and doing a lot better and stuff. So I mean, yeah, you know, I just like don't really think that's very nice to like come in someone's stream and like try to do that. But anyways, I hope I don't seem mean, by the way, guys, but it's just like, you know, and if people want to attack me, like, they can do that. And of course, like, you know, people have the right to their opinions and everything. But it's like, it's not really like what my stream is like about. And also just kind of like attacking a viewer of mine that's really nice. It's just kind of like, I don't really think that's like necessary.
Now we'll go through that clip in more context later on, but yeah, pretty much that's Eugenia outright defending someone who was accused of very serious things. They were accused of being very inappropriate and creepy in Eugenia's server, and we will look at the screenshots later. And Eugenia's response was pretty much leave them alone, and then she banned the person who was calling the person out in her Twitch chat. It shows to me that what's being said in this Reddit post here about moderators sometimes siding with aggressors, it isn't exactly unbelievable when you've seen Eugenia herself do the exact same thing. And it might sound like a bit of a crazy comparison, but as I mentioned before, I've seen a lot of content creators out there have Discord servers, but the most notorious terrible one that I've ever seen other than Eugenia's was actually Onision's server. And to be honest with you, the vibes I get from Eugenia's old server is the same vibes that I got from Onision's old and current server. Very creepy, very inappropriate, a lot of misconduct, and a lot of that all happening when there were people of varying age ranges, you know, in the server. And to me, I know it's crazy to compare Onision and Eugenia, but to be honest, their servers just seem identical. So many terrible stories, and so many people saying that the experiences they had absolutely affected them when they were younger. I even found a tweet from September of 2020 of when somebody complained, Eugenia, we need to discuss an admin, aka Emo J. They won't help me with any concerns I have. They're an admin in your Discord server. And another person at the time of when I was speaking about the situation reached out to me directly and claimed that this server, quote unquote, severely damaged their mental health. And the reason I'm showing you this is to prove that, well, this server harbored a lot of vulnerable people, and that's why I think this is a special instance where more care needs to be put in place than a regular content creator's Discord server. But also, yeah, I would say nowadays with more understanding of Discord communities, everyone should be putting in the precautions, of course, but with Eugenia, particularly back in 2020, I feel like it was paramount for her to do more, but she didn't do anything, and it really does just seem that this wasn't a one-time, two-time, three-time, four-time thing. There are so many documented experiences of people being affected by her server and nothing at the time being done. And with everything that's being said in this TikTok from Fancakes, it's really hard to deny any of it because there is just so much evidence for it. And with that, let's continue with the story that Fancakes is giving, in particular around the subject of where they got stalked by someone in Eugenia's community.
Something else that happened to me is there was a 52-year-old man that went by the name San the Man, and he would stalk me and another friend that was a bit older than me, actually an adult, but also a vulnerable person in this category. He would do this directly in her Discord while Eugenia was typing in it, and he would do this where he would give donations to her, donate to her things about us, or say things in chat that she would directly read and see this harassment happening. And we would also go to her with screenshots, with evidence, not just me. Like, every one of my friends would be like, hey, this guy won't leave us alone. I'd go to her moderators, hey, they won't leave us alone. Oh, he's too nice. We have to wait for him to up and on Twitch or turn against her or something. And she did not get rid of him for over a year. I think a year and a half, maybe even 2 years. He was allowed to stay despite what he was doing to me and others in her community. And the cherry off the cake, the cherry of the cake of this all, is he got away with first-degree murder. And the way we found out he got away with first-degree murder was one of her moderators was frustrated that he was still around, so he leaked his criminal record right on the Discord server for everyone to see, because he couldn't do anything about it. He couldn't ban him, he couldn't get rid of him. Eugenia was too nice to let that happen. So we found out he got away with murder, and reading the articles, it really reads like he did it, to be honest with you. I'll link a screenshot of the article here. It's kind of hard to crop on here, so if you want to look this up, look up Steve Angove, Panama City, Florida murder, and you can find this newspaper archive. But here's where he's saying that, the newspaper article saying that he called someone, said he killed somebody, and basically the only reason, if you look for the entire case, that he got away with it is because him and his co-defendant were tried separately. And being tried separately meant that they weren't able to weigh them both at the same time, and back then, when this murder took place, the DNA testing and things like that weren't as adequate, and she was just a Jane Doe, so it was really hard to convict him.
Yeah, it basically feels that every single serious crime that you could possibly imagine was accused to have happened in Eugenia's Discord server. But yeah, let's read this screenshot. It says something about a trial, and then it says, she said Angove started to say something in the car on the way back from the hospital. He said, there's something I have to tell you, but you are going to hate me, Ullman said in her deposition. I said, what is it? Is it bad? He goes, yeah, but I'm not going to tell you right now. When they returned to Ullman's home, Angove asked to speak to her in the privacy of the bedroom. The conversation, according to her deposition, went like this. He goes, he started crying. He goes, I got something to tell you. I said, well, what did you do? He goes, we killed someone. I go, do what? He goes, yeah, I think we killed someone. Ullman said Angove claimed to not remember everything, only that he and Hansen had been out drinking and had picked up a woman at a local bar. His memory faded in and out, but Angove allegedly said he vaguely remembers Hansen beginning to, well, it describes seriously someone. And yeah, this isn't a fake case. I actually did some Googling and deep diving, and I found the exact same article, where on Google it comes up with links to newspapers from 1996 directly referencing this trial, where it does state that the individuals involved were acquitted. And because I wanted to find out directly what happened in this case, I then paid for membership to get access to the database of newspapers in this particular region of Florida, and I actually got access to the newspaper. And yeah, as you can see, it's the newspaper in the 90s, and it says that he was acquitted, and jurors decided that the state failed to prove defendant played active part in death of Jane Doe, and basically the court agreed that there was not enough evidence to convict this individual. And like I said earlier, I want to be fair in this video, and I want to prove what's fact and what isn't fact, and based on my own research, I can see that this guy, in the eyes of the law, is technically an innocent man. Now, it is interesting that this man went from all of this massive court case in Florida, to being in the Discord of Eugenia Cooney, but alas, technically he is an innocent man, and I actually could not find any proof to back what the TikToker was originally saying about the weird reasons to why this court case was acquitted. If somebody else can maybe find the details, put it in the comment section and I will pin the comment. But as far as I can see, technically, he is an innocent man, and based on the quotes that I read, it is because there was a lack of evidence. Now, maybe that is because of forensics, but at the end of the day, I don't really want to call this man guilty because, well, he wasn't found guilty. And yeah, I thought I should just say that because we're going through this TikTok and we need to prove what is technically real and what technically isn't real. But as you're going to discover, this man does come up again in this story, and the thing is, he didn't murder anyone, but he definitely did not get up to, well, good behavior. But putting that aside for now, she then starts to speak about more bad people in this server, and yeah, again, some of the worst possible people you can imagine were apparently in Eugenia's server.
For example, there was someone in her community that went by the name Johnny, and he was very problematic because he was a not C, and basically he was already open about that, and Eugenia Cooney was cool with him being around. And allegedly, he apparently used to have phone calls with Eugenia Cooney, and she was very friendly with him. He was one of her most active chatters, and eventually he turned on her, but that was after someone convinced Eugenia to finally get rid of him, after he victimized 2 women in her community. They had to beg her on YouNow to get him banned, especially since then they didn't even have moderators on YouNow. YouNow was just like a Wild West. They only had site moderators. So the only way for them to be gone from her community was if Eugenia directly blocked him. Eugenia did not want to do that.
Now, yeah, again, this is a very serious allegation, and no, I don't expect her to have screenshotted literally every single interaction that she had in this server, but from what I can see, there isn't too much proof of this online. Now, this claim does actually originate back to the original claims in 2020, where somebody did make the claim that what this TikToker is saying here did actually happen in this server of these terrible people existing. But again, technically there is no proof of these things, so I'm not going to come onto here and absolutely verify them and say they're directly true. But based on everything else she has said in this video, most of the stuff, pretty much 90% of it, does have verifiable facts behind it. There are a lot of screenshots, especially the stuff we're about to now get into, that really does show to us that yes, there is a lot of terrible people in these servers, and there have been more than just Fancake saying these things. There have been so many cases of people getting their story out there. So no, I'm not going to verify what she's saying here, but at the end of the day, I would not be surprised if they're true, especially considering that there is a Reddit post from 2020 claiming the exact same things. I mean, considering that there was a moderator in the server that was on the register list, and that person himself was complaining that there was another person in the server that was terrible even for him, and he was trying to convince Eugenia to remove him. Considering all these factors, would I be really shocked if Eugenia allowed somebody with horrific political opinions and social opinions in her server? No, I would not be shocked by that. But yeah, moving on, Fancake starts to speak about more of her own personal experiences. And yeah, as you can imagine, it's absolutely terrible.
And I was personally victimized by someone connected to one of these men by the name of Matt Carty, and he also went by Larry Appleton and a few other names. And he should have been banned alongside with Johnny, but instead he was not. He was allowed to stay, and eventually he went on to move and me as part of her community. This Irish Wolfie person was also someone in her community that was a moderator offering a young minor child advice, offering to be a weight loss coach, which is notoriously a predatory thing to be in a pro community.
Yes, this is obviously not good. Now, I have to be careful about the wording here because YouTube are very sensitive about this topic, but pretty much this is somebody saying, I'ma do a word that is fast and ends in an ing. This is a type of thing to lose some stuff, and you might get really annoyed by how I'm trying to get away with this, but honestly, the last time I briefly, fleetingly, subtly addressed these types of topics, the video just got nuked. So I have to be safe. I really do. And it is really annoying because I would like to directly say these things. And I've mocked people in the past for trying to get around guidelines. But honestly, we're in an era of where YouTube just don't like these topics being spoken about. But yeah, as you can see, someone in the server with a role that presumably is moderator states, Sakura, if you want advice, DM me. I've helped people, including my own mum, lose 10 stones. And for YouTube's sake, we're talking about rocks here. Stones and pebbles that you find at the beach. Everyone comment their favorite rock down below. But yeah, being serious now, in a community of where people vary in very large different age ranges, from very young to very old, I think that this is something incredibly inappropriate to be talking about. I don't think that this advice should be given out in these types of servers, especially when you take into the consideration of all of the issues and controversy surrounding Eugenia Cooney, the main topic of conversation surrounding Eugenia. I think it says a lot about the server that this advice was just being thrown out there like it was nothing, and backs a lot of the claims earlier about, wanting a thigh gap and stuff like that, and moderators giving advice on these things. I think that that is terrifying and shows how horrible these communities truly were and how they very much did prop up certain health conditions. And I did a bit of digging and found out that that Sakura guy was actually in, at the time, grade 10, which would have meant he was 15 to 16 years old, which obviously makes this a million times worse because now we have verifiable proof that yes, an adult in a Discord server surrounding Eugenia's community was giving out this advice to kids. That obviously is absolutely disgusting because when it comes, I'm trying not to get in trouble here. When it comes to issues in your life, any issues I should say, when you get exposed to them at a young age, that's really when these things can, live with you for the rest of your life. And to see that this stuff was taking place in these servers is genuinely despicable. But now actually getting back to the TikTok, we need to move into the part 2 because yes, this is 2 separate TikToks going over multiple allegations. And it starts off by getting into more of the allegations surrounding, well, people going to Eugenia about bad people in her community and Eugenia and the people in charge of her community doing nothing about it.
Okay, thank you, Harlequin Ivy, for letting me know. I mean, yeah, if they're still calling me an abuser, it's like, dude, like, I had no idea, like, about, like, any of it. I would never want that to happen to them or anyone, so it's like, that's crazy. I don't know, I thought I might have saw some stuff on Twitter, like, they were possibly, like, attacking you or something. I'm like, I don't know why. It's like, you're super nice, you don't deserve that.
So this clip I just played for you was a clip from 2022 in this video here. It was in this video where someone asked if they would consider unbanning me, and the reason I was banned is I actually brought up creepy attention in our community directly in a donation, and I got banned for doing so. Now, why am I talking about this video clip and why is it important? She mentions that she saw a friend on Twitter attacking you or something to this Harlequin Ivy person. This confirms several things. One, Eugenia Cooney saw my profile and saw that I was attacking Harlequin Ivy, aka this person named Ariel. Here was the tweet that was pinned to my Twitter account about Ariel where I was attacking her. This here was a thread about how I got by 2 people in our community, Ariel, who was around 19 and 20 years old at the time, and Brawley, who was a 34-year-old man. This was what was pinned to my Twitter, and this is what Eugenia Cooney apologized to Ariel that she was going through with me. And if she read the whole thread, she would see the proof I provided like this. This was included in the Twitter thread where she said that I was attacking Harlequin Ivy / Ariel. As you can see here, there is 34-year-old Brawley up here with uncovers Ariel's face and kisses her, being 34-year-old, being in like a freeway relationship with me, Ariel, and him. And this is her giving me back and agreeing to give me back for roleplay. Obviously this is cringe because roleplay shit is cringe, but you should not be doing this under any circumstances, okay? Here's more proof I provided in this thread, and it shows here how, once again, kind of cringe that this type of behavior is, but also shows more proof of Ariel, aka Harlequin Ivy, that was doing towards me, and this was in the direct thread that Eugenia Cooney read and saw that she was getting attacked on Twitter for. And I was providing enough context here as well, explaining what was happening with the guy that was 34 years old and Ariel, who was 20, and I was 14 years old. He was dating both of us at the time, and so if Eugenia Cooney saw this thread and saw that I was attacking Ariel / Harlequin Ivy, this is what she'd be seeing here. So she saw what I was saying on Twitter and decided to apologize to said predator. And this was in 2022, after the whole Discord situation where her Discord got shut down by me for her continuing to sympathize and protect predators in her community.
Now, I feel like in this video, I've been pretty fair when it comes to going through the facts and working out what is real and what isn't real. And with everything that she just went through, it's really hard to deny anything, to be honest with you. She came with a lot of receipts. And the thing is, as I searched for Pancakes' Twitter, and yes, even in 2020, she made a tweet that I found from an alt saying, "Hey Eugenia, it's Pancakes. Care to explain why I just got banned for asking a question about the Predator situation? Sure, this is not a cover-up. Eugenia, what the..." And then it links a message of her asking Eugenia in her Twitch about this situation, which, yeah, led to her getting banned in the chat. But the rabbit hole doesn't end there. As I searched Ariel's name on Eugenia's Reddit, and I found a post of someone stating evidence of how Eugenia responded to evidence. And then it says, DMs with Ariel. And this is basically where things really started to connect. Everyone that we've been speaking about in this situation, from moderators to just people orbiting in Eugenia's community, these people are all connected and have been for a long time. And that's why I can get why people were calling this a ring, because everyone is connected. There are so many people in this story that know each other and have said things that have just been buried upon millions of posts about so many different things. Because yeah, this is Ariel speaking to Eugenia, where she says, "Hey Eugenia, sorry to bug you about this, but this Steve guy's, aka San the Man Sangove 1. Now note that down. Steve Sangove. It sounds familiar. It sounds an awful lot like Stephen Angove, the man mentioned earlier who was acquitted for murder that Fancakes was talking about. And basically, yeah, there was no proof of that, but like I said earlier, his name would come back up because yes, here it is. The person called Ariel, who Fancakes is accusing of being predatory, is now being complained about by Ariel for being a bad person and basically harassing people. She said Steve is harassing her even though she has blocked him everywhere and she doesn't know what to do. And Eugenia then says, "Hey Ariel, I'm sorry to hear about that," but she basically just says she can't do anything to stop him. Bearing in mind that this guy was in her Twitch and Discord chats. But then the Reddit post gets even more interesting where they attach another screenshot of DMs, which is basically a conversation between Ariel once again and another moderator. And yes, it connects once again because the moderator that Ariel is speaking to is the same moderator we went through earlier that was exposed in 2020 for being on the register list. And he says, "What's up? I can't do anything about Twitter. We did, however, run him off Discord, and I just need him to mess up one time on Twitch chat to get rid of him there also."
Like, every one of my friend group would be like, "Hey, this guy won't leave us alone." I'd go to her moderators, "Hey, they won't leave us alone. Oh, he's too nice. We have to wait for him to up." And
yes, the moderator who was on the register said that we have removed him from the Discord, which, you know, fair enough, even though you're a horrible human being that should be in jail, in my personal opinion. But, you know, fair enough you've done that. But he won't remove this individual who's being reported for harassment because he hasn't done it in the Twitch chat. They're waiting for him to mess up in the Twitch chat, which to me is just an insane rule. You know this person is a terrible person, you know they're harassing people in the community, but you're still willing to give them a chance. And this was the moderators in her server. But to top it off, to make it even better, to put the cherry on top of the cake, he says that he hates this 53-year-old predator. Yes, the guy on the register says that he hates somebody else that is basically in the same game as him. And this was all taking place in Eugenia's community. We have all of these terrible, terrible people all linked in together, all complaining about each other, despite so many of them seemingly being terrible, whilst all being in communication with 14-year-old Fancakes, and seemingly nothing really being done about it until 2020, when the situation erupted. But from what we can see, this is all a million times worse than it originally was spoken about in 2020. But then, the insanity doesn't end there, because then another screenshot is attached where Eugenia is DMing Ariel once again, this time about Fancakes. Yes, another person is directly connected to the story, stating, "Hey Ariel, I think he was a little bit concerned about the stuff with Fancakes, but I don't really know the details of everything going between you all, and I'm not really involved in any of it. So don't worry, I'm not taking any sides or turning against anyone. Hope everything is okay with you." And that for me is a perfect summary of how Eugenia would deal with all of these situations. She would try to sit on the sidelines and state, "I'm not involved with any of this, you guys deal with it amongst yourselves." But the reality is, Eugenia, you were involved with it. These people only know each other because they are directly involved in your community. They're in your servers, your Twitch chat. Your moderators are deciding if they get to stay in your community, and you are responsible as the head of the community for all of these things. Yes, one time, two times, maybe even three times we can look past some bad things happening, but it very much did seem that a lot of bad stuff was happening, and you, word for word, state here that you were pretty much not going to take sides or go against anyone. And yeah, I feel like this pretty much vindicates everything that Fancakes has been saying about Eugenia. I've seen a lot of posts doing my research calling Fancakes a crazed, obsessed former fan, and some people stating that she's just doing this for clout. But to be honest with you, she's come with so many receipts. She's come with so many facts, and it's really hard to look past at this point when you start connecting the dots and realizing that yes, all of the people that she's speaking about are very much real people, and it seems there is evidence for so many of them being terrible. And finally, going back to Fancakes' TikTok, she starts to speak about her overall other negative experiences in the server, and how she and other former Eugenia fans actually got together to discuss their own experiences and exchange screenshots in other servers about all of this. And she starts to directly go into her experience with this person called Ariel, where she pretty much claims that, well, Ariel, yes, is a predator, and states that Ariel herself allegedly didn't deny any of this.
I want to talk a little bit now about my personal situation where I was and how that affected me, besides just the Harley Quinn Ivy stuff. But speaking of the Harley Quinn Ivy stuff / Ariel stuff, the one that Eugenia Cooney defended in 2022, I have not talked about the situation for a long time because those two, Brawley, the 34-year-old man that I mentioned in the thread, and Ariel have been blackmailing me for the better part of 5 years. They threatened to leak my location and things like that. So I've been quiet about this, even though there has been proof that she's defended them post her Discord server being deleted, and even apologizing to said predator for feeling bad that she's getting exposed type deal. So this is pretty risky for me to do, and this is the one that could definitely get my video taken down. So if you see this, you definitely want to download this one and share it just in case anything else ever happens to it. And speaking of this whole Eugenia apologizing thing, Ariel didn't even deny that this happened. She said it happened, but that she just had a hard time rejecting me, which even if you have a hard time rejecting that they are quote unquote dealing with I hate that term, but we'll use it. And if you deal with that, you should not do this by saying yes to and engaging in a relationship with them. And also it lasted way longer than 2 days anyway, like this person's claiming. But this person didn't even deny this happening and admitted to happening and put the blame on me instead, the 14-year-old child, when she was 19, 20 years old.
So yeah, apparently this was Ariel originally responding to the situation of her being called a predator by Fancakes years ago. And as you can see, it starts off with, at the time, I was 19, not 20. For context, Fancakes would have been 14 years old. So being 19 or 20 is not an excuse. The age difference is so minimal that to me, it doesn't mean anything. She then says, see how this person keeps changing the story. I mean, getting the age wrong between 19 and 20, realistically, isn't the end of the world. I don't really think that's a deliberate thing. I think if they were deliberately trying to make you worse, they would say you were 24, you were 25. Getting a 1 year age difference mixed up is not really that bad in my opinion. She then says, as with someone else, Ace had a crush on me and threatened to do bad things to themselves. So with all of that and all the people telling me to do it in a way that wouldn't cause them to do anything, the RP was on and off for 2 days and in a group chat where others could see till I could tell and let them know that I wasn't and never will be into / interested in. And to be honest with you, no, we're not going to use this whole roleplay argument because in the real world, this argument would not be accepted. Roleplay doesn't justify you breaking the law and doing creepy things with people that you definitely shouldn't be doing those creepy things with. No one in the real world would excuse these actions because, oh, sorry guys, it was just roleplay. Answer me this. Why were you role-playing with them? Because you enjoyed it. Therefore, you can't use it as an excuse. I don't care what anyone says. This is just an absolutely insane excuse. And the idea of anyone trying to cover up crimes like this with the idea of it being roleplay is utterly hilarious. You're not an actor. You're not someone being paid to do this for a television show or a film. You are doing this in your own private time, and therefore you are guilty of these things, whether you call it roleplay or not roleplay. And also, it's crazy that this 20-year-old is putting the blame on a 14-year-old in this situation. You are a grown adult and you're trying to tell us that you were basically manipulated into this by somebody who was 14. get a grip of yourself and realize what you're saying. But what's even more interesting is that this is the person that Eugenia seemingly stood up for by banning Fancakes from her stream chats. Now, maybe Eugenia will make the argument of, oh, she just didn't want the negativity in her stream chat, but honestly, it's hard to look past the amount of evidence there is that Eugenia just consistently looked past all of this. Especially knowing that in the past, Eugenia made claims that she doesn't want to get involved in stuff going on in her community and that she's not going to take sides or turn against anyone. And I'm sorry, but no, you can't take this stance as a content creator running a Discord. I don't expect them to be managing it 24/7, but to not take any forms of responsibility and to take a sideline on such serious things going on in your community is just genuinely insane. Now, Fancakes goes on to share even more screenshots that just represent that this Discord was an absolute cesspool. Now, I have censored a lot of the things here, but it gives you a clear idea of the stuff that was going on in this Discord and how bad of a place it was. And then moving on from that, the rest of her TikTok is basically her just exposing how terrible the situation was in her Discord when she was 14 years old. And because of the story erupting, more and more screenshots have started to erupt after, in particular, Vangelina Skov's video that I mentioned earlier. In her video, she starts to go through a very old video from 5 years ago that shows screenshots directly from Eugenia's server. And a lot of these screenshots do directly correlate with some of the things that we have been speaking about today. As you can see, it's just people being very, very weird. Someone in the middle of conversation saying, what if Eugenia was a vampire and wanted to bite you? Eugenia can take my blood any day of the week. I wouldn't mind her nibbling on... No, we're not reading that. Then just more weirdness. There were more inappropriate DMs of people saying very, very weird things despite young people being in the presence of them in this server. And yeah, I have censored the main explicit details, but you get the idea. This Zemozo guy was the main culprit I saw stating some of these very, very creepy things. And yeah, it led to him eventually being exposed for being creepy. But even when he was called out on this, he claims that Eugenia and others don't think so and that they're pretty much on his side. Now, you might think to yourself, well, this isn't necessarily evidence of Eugenia doing anything bad, and I would agree with you until you find out the fact that, well, there is a stream clip of Eugenia defending this exact individual. Because yeah, years ago, Fancakes herself went into the stream of Eugenia to let her know about this specific individual, and it led to Fancakes getting banned from the chat.
I give you know this, but Zenzo has threatened people W violence new. Also, please seek treatment. You don't seem to be doing well, and I am concerned.
No offense to people here, and honestly, like, I'm not really gonna give this, like, too much of a reaction or anything. But I just kind of think, like, you know, coming in my stream and just kind of, like, attacking a viewer of mine who I think is a really nice person, I just don't really think that's very nice to do that. And to that person, like, honestly, he's a great person. He's always been, like, very, very sweet on my stream. So I'm not trying to, you know, be mean to anybody here, but I kind of just think coming in just to say that is kind of, like, not very nice. And then also, you know, kind of, like, bringing that on to me and everything, it's like, the stream isn't really, no offense, like, the stream isn't really about me, like, going to treatment or whatever. And, like, last year, you know, I was in treatment for a while, and I've been doing, like, good and doing a lot better and stuff. So, I mean, yeah, you know, I just, like, don't really think that's very nice to, like, come in someone's stream and, like, try to do that. But anyways, I hope I don't seem mean, by the way, guys, but it's just, like, you know, and if people want to attack me, like, they can do that, and of course, like, you know, people have the right to their opinions and everything. But it's like, it's not really, like, what my stream is, like, about, and Also, just kind of like attacking a viewer of mine that's really nice. It's just kind of like, I don't really think that's like necessary.
Yeah, that really nice guy was the same guy that would go into Eugenia's chat and threaten to beat haters with a steel pipe. What a lovely guy. I'm really glad that this guy was in the community and was allowed to thrive, and Eugenia actually banned other people for coming after him. I'm really glad that this is the person that Eugenia wanted in her community because he's nice. Now, I should say, legal reasons, this guy hasn't, as far as I know, been convicted of anything. But it's clear to me that he was very inappropriate in these servers, and Eugenia just clearly did not care because he was nice to her. And this is something that has come up throughout these allegations of, well, Eugenia not doing anything because she was just too nice. But at the end of the day, how many times can that happen where that's a valid excuse? I personally just don't think it is an excuse that can be used in a situation of where there are not thousands, but a lot of situations involving a consistent pattern of behavior. Now, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, she did delete the server in 2020 after uploading a video titled Addressing the Discord Situation. And yeah, she does address everything.
And this perfect and easy solution ended up being a massive problem. So it started really slowly at first, and I started seeing a couple of messages about how this guy may have been a predator. From what I found out later, I also found out that he was actually trying to ban people from my Discord server that were kind of trying to speak out about that, so I wasn't even able to see a lot of those messages, unfortunately.
Now, in this exact situation here, maybe she is telling the truth, but from what we've gone through in this video and the evidence that we've taken a look at and a TikTok that we've gone through, it's clear that she does have a history of taking a backseat on a lot of situations ongoing in her community and just letting them continue because she does not want to quote unquote upset anyone or turn on anyone. And yeah, we could play the two sides here of saying maybe she did truthfully not want to upset anyone, or maybe she didn't want to upset anyone because they'll stop donating to her. This is a heavily debated thing that I'm not really going to confirm any of the arguments on because really there is no evidence of both. I understand why people jump to these conclusions, but you know, I'm not going to do that right now. But one thing that I am confused about is basically the idea of Eugenia not seeing any of the messages about these situations.
But I would also never want to accuse somebody of something so serious without proof. So I ended up asking him about it, and it was uncomfortable, but I knew I had to do that. So in his messages, he explained to me that none of this was true and that he was just being set up. So I really wanted to believe him, where in the past he seemed really nice, but something about this still just made me feel really uncomfortable with this whole situation. And then just a few days later, somebody ended up sending me something that did look like what was actual proof that these allegations against him were true, and the stuff that people were saying against him was true. And this was all I needed to know in regards to my relationship with him. So after I found out this info, I immediately told him that I could not work with him in any capacity anymore. So this guy continued to DM me, and he continued to tell me that I was letting the trolls win and that the truth didn't matter and that everyone was just out to get him and like to set him up. He even went as far as to make up a fake identity and even gave me a fake name that I don't think was really ever his name. And even with him sending me these messages, I never let him back in or responded to him after that. So I think it's really important for me to say at this point, I would never allow someone in my life to mistreat other people, and I was extremely unaware of this situation as it was happening. And once I did find out what looked to be the truth with that person back then, I knew how serious it was back then, and that remains just as important now. Now, based on some other videos and some other conspiracy theories that I've seen, I know that a lot of people are saying that there was another mod that at some point in the past 2 years was giving out harmful advice also on my server. And obviously this is something that I'm not okay with. At the time that this was going on, I honestly had no idea that it was happening.
Now, to be honest with you, I don't know if I can trust anything Eugenia is saying here because we have seen so many situations of where people have directly gone to Eugenia with evidence and complaints about people in her server. We've seen moderators basically state that they tried to convince Eugenia, moderators, by the way, who are on a register, telling them this person in their server that they tried to convince Eugenia to remove somebody that even they deemed to be terrible and to be a predator. We have seen so many examples of evidence of Eugenia not doing enough, so excuse me if I don't trust what she is saying here. To me, it just feels like she was lying through her teeth in 2020, and now the situation looks a million times worse with even more evidence coming out.
This Zenzo has threatened people violence.
I honestly had no idea that it was happening. Honestly, like, I'm not really gonna give this, like, too much of a reaction or anything. I honestly had no idea that it was happening. But I just kind of think, like, you know, coming in my stream and just kind of, like, attacking a viewer of mine who I think is a really nice person. So I really wanted to believe him, where in the past he seemed really nice. I just don't really think that's very nice to do that. I honestly had no idea that it was happening. I honestly had no idea that it was happening. I honestly had no idea that it was happening. I honestly had no idea that it was happening. I honestly had no idea that it was happening. I honestly had no idea that it was happening. I honestly had no idea that it was happening. I honestly had no idea that it was happening. I honestly had no idea that it was happening. I honestly had no idea that it was happening. I honestly had no idea that it was happening. But now, like there's people online that try to like twist things around and bring up things from like ever ago. I'm still kind of like of my side of that. Everything that is being said in those videos is from over 2 years ago. None of it is from anything that's recent. And yeah, you guys can say there's proof. I honestly had no idea that it was happening.
And look, I feel like I'm being as charitable as possible, but honestly, it's not looking good.
So knowing that I had one person that moderated for me that ended up being a predator, and then another person who could have been giving out harmful advice, has just been a lot for me to handle. And even though that whole huge moderator situation happened over 2 years ago, and a lot of stuff people are talking about has been from over 2 years ago, as I was going over the stuff like the last couple of weeks, I just decided that maybe my Discord server was too much to handle, and I deleted the server. And I also just want to clarify with some of the other stuff going on that a lot of these other messages that have been being shown in videos are actually from people that were never moderators for me to begin with, ever. And a lot of the people being talked about actually are people that have already been banned. Of course, I'm not always able to know what goes on in people's DMs or what's actually happening.
Okay, so the crux of this is, yes, the Discord was eventually removed, and I'm glad that she did that. You know, that's, you know, the minimum, I think. I think it should have been done. Well, not necessarily it should have been banned. I don't even think she needed to directly delete the Discord or whatever. She just needed to manage it. Now, maybe in this situation, I think it was past a point of return, but, you know, this could have been dealt with very, very long ago. This could have been dealt with so much easier, but unfortunately, it wasn't, and it's led to so much direct harm happening in her community. And yeah, in regards to the context of everything that we've gone through today, this response is not great, to be honest. And I think combined with the fact that, wow, Eugenia is now indirectly involved in a court case about protecting people on the internet, which specifically references her as somebody that puts people in danger, I think obviously this is not a great timing for people to be talking about this, because this very much does point to the fact that, well, Eugenia has a history of putting people in danger. Do I think Eugenia Cooney was definitely running a crime ring where she was directly responsible for everything going on in this situation? No, I don't. I've not seen evidence to point to that direction, and I firmly don't believe that. But do I think that she was grossly irresponsible in this situation? Do I think that she put people in danger and at risk and in direct harm by not doing anything about the people that people went to her and complained about? Even her predator mods complained about to her and tried to convince her to remove people. Do I think that she is responsible for a lot of that? Yes, I do. And I fundamentally find it quite baffling to understand why somebody else couldn't. I get maybe someone stating, well, she's deleted it now and that's that, and I don't know why this is being talked about in 2025, but even then, I think it is understandable that we're talking about it because there is so much new information that we did not know about. This situation is genuinely terrible, and the effects of what happened in these servers is probably still affecting people to this day, like we are seeing with Fancakes right here. And overall, to conclude this story, personally, I don't think that this is the end of the Eugenia Cooney Discord drama situation, whatever you want to call it, because now with this erupting, the court case erupting, it really does feel that more and more people are speaking out and are going to speak out. In general, what the community consensus is, well, it's a lot of people speculating over the fact that, well, people weren't banned because she's too nice, and they were actually not banned because she was getting lots of money from them, and overall, people aren't happy. People really do think that Eugenia is at direct fault in this situation, and personally, I completely understand where they're coming from based on everything that we've gone through today. But with that, I'll call the video and I'll end the video there. I will end the video there and say, please let me know your thoughts in the comment section. If you've had any direct experience with what happened in these servers, please let me know. And again, I'm sorry if I was frustrating with, going around certain words and phrases and, crimes and stuff like that. It's just nowadays, social media is a lot more sensitive when it comes to their algorithms, and you've kind of got to be safe, because I want people to see this video. I don't want it to get hit or anything like that. So please understand with why I do that. And, yeah, let me know your thoughts down below. Please like this video, and I will see you in the next one. If you've got anything you want to DM to me personally about this, my Instagram is inabber. The links are in the description, or you can just search up inabber on Instagram or on TikTok. And yeah, that's that. See you in the next one. Peace out, and have a lovely weekend. Bye-bye.